Welcome back, everybody, to the No Starving Artist podcast. It's great to have you here with us today. I hope you're enjoying all the episodes. As always, nsadance.com. You can find out everything there is to know about No Starving Artists on there. So be sure to check that out. Today, we've got a fantastic guest, and we've been on this streak of new things on the podcast, new types of guests, new genres of guests, I guess you could say. And I'm really, really excited about this one. I think it's going to be really beneficial for a lot of the artists out there that are, trying to make the thing happen. So without further ado, let's jump right in here. Darren Smith, welcome to the No Starving Artist podcast. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to have this chat today.
Me too. Tell the people a little bit about you and kind of who you are.
Awesome. Happy to. So I'm Darren Smith. I'm the founder of Craftsman Films and producer Fund One. I'm an independent film producer based in Provo, Utah. I've done 4 movies over the last 4 years. 2 of them were in theaters last year. These 2 on the wall behind me. They actually overlapped by 1 week. So as an indie producer, I had 2 movies in theaters last year. It's pretty fun.
That's crazy.
And I'm an author. I'm a speaker. I like doing podcasts and blogging and all those things. And really the content is to help artists and creators, specifically filmmakers, but creators of all kinds, figure out the business side. Because, I went 12 years before producing my first movie because I didn't know a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of become a mission, a personal vendetta, I guess, of like, no one else is teaching this stuff. Someone's got to do it. I feel like I can do a decent job. And I like the teaching, the talking about it, the exploration of how do you build a thriving career in creative industries. So that's what I'm excited to dive into with you today.
Me too. And as you pointed out, I think like that's where a lot of artists hit a wall or sort of even sometimes a demotivation point where it's like, I know what I want to do, but I have no clue how to make it happen. I'm curious, where did all of this sort of start for you? Was this something that you ventured into in college? Were you always into sort of film and the creative side of things? Where was the beginning of all this?
Oh man. We can go back to the womb, honestly. Like I'll keep it brief. The 42-year history of my life, I'll keep it very brief. But like my grandparents, who are from here in Utah, would come visit us in Sacramento, where I grew up, for the Sacramento Jazz Jubilee every Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
And from the time I was in the womb, every year I would go and attend this jazz festival with my grandparents. And so like the value on art and music and performance was instilled very, very early on. So I played saxophone growing up, starting in like 4th grade, all through high school. Went to BYU University, Brigham Young University, on a saxophone performance scholarship.
Okay.
And quickly realized like I could either teach saxophone or perform saxophone, and I'm not good enough to do that. So maybe I should find a different career path.
Fair enough.
But I fell in love with post-production sound and live music recording and reinforcement. I toured with bands like Neon Trees and Imagine Dragons. They started here in Provo, Utah, and then got into post-production sound for film, started a film production company, a little boutique 2-person outlet that we were doing video and stuff for a number of years. Okay. And that led to me becoming a producer and being where I am now on your podcast.
Got it. Okay. So quite the character arc there, quite the development leading up to where we are now.
Yeah, not the villain arc, but the superhero arc, right?
Not thus far, certainly.
We don't know.
No, that's incredible. Yeah, I think that's fair with the saxophone. I don't know. Maybe these days, social media you would have had a couple more options, but I don't know. Maybe not.
I think so.
So one thing that we were kind of chatting about before the episode started, and kind of, it sounds like the ethos of what you do is really sort of, aside from the stuff that you actually do, producing films, is creating a space and helping artists sort of get there for themselves. Why was that something that resonated with you? Like it's a valiant effort, and I'm always curious as to why people kind of go in the directions that they do. So what led to you feeling like there was a need for people to figure it out?
Yeah. Oh, it's such a good question. And I don't think I get asked it enough. So I don't have a prepared answer for you. But you know, there's things in my life that I can point to where it became clear that I had a soft spot for unfairness, people that are treated unfairly. And so it kind of, you know, if you're going a scriptural route, it would be the poor and the downtrodden, right? The people that are overlooked or taken advantage of. It just always felt wrong. And especially so to me when I would see examples of people who were being mistreated or taken advantage of. And once I got into an industry where you could point to many, many examples of people who took advantage of others, or the fact that there are gatekeepers, and we could show that in any industry, right? Especially creative industries, but it just felt unfair. And so when I finally cracked the code in my own life and career of like, oh, I went from making 35 grand a year for 10 years to, you know, 2-3 years later making six figures. Like my revenue doubled in 2020. Let's count it out. 2018 it doubled, 2019 it doubled, 2020 it stayed the same through COVID.
Yeah.
And I started two businesses. Like I cracked a code around 2017. We can talk about what all that looks like. But as soon as I cracked it, the instant instinct was I need to tell everybody else what I just figured out, because it's unfair for me to become one of the people that I was complaining about before. So I don't know. It's an inherent thing. It's part of my DNA to say it's unfair and I need to do something about it.
I love that. I love that. I do. I want to go right to 2017. What, you know, what was that? What did that change look like for you? What was it? I'm curious too. Was it something where you were like, you were trying things, or it just happened and then you were like, oh, this is the thing?
No, I was definitely trying things. I was beating my head against the wall for 8 years. Like we started, my business partner and I started writing scripts together in 2008. And we kind of informally became business partners 2009 and formalized it in 2012. So from 2009 to 2017, we wrote half a dozen screenplays and TV pilots, and we tried to raise money to make those into TV and film projects, with no success. Like we raised a little bit of money on 2 projects, but not enough to make them. So we gave the money back, or we spent it before we knew, you know, oh, we need more money.
Yeah.
So for a long time, you know, we're talking 2009 to 2017. We were trying to make it happen. We were trying to be filmmakers. And 2017 was hard because my business partner was, you know, struggling with some personal issues and wanted to be a director and hadn't yet become a director. And it was hard. And the business was kind of falling apart because, you know, our best year, we made like 150 grand. But then you got to take out all the overhead and expenses, and then you split it 50-50, and we walk away with like 35 grand that we're paying ourselves. But that was fine in 2007, 8, 9, when I was a solo entrepreneur with my little post-production sound company. Like that was great. Fast forward 10 years and I've got a wife and 3 kids and a house and 2 cars and a dog. And it's like 35 grand doesn't go as far.
It's not going very far. Yeah.
So I kind of had reached a tipping point of this isn't working. It's not going to work the way we're going after it. And so I made the decision to leave the business in 2017. It was hard, but I mean, this guy is still one of my best friends. So like the relationship was saved. The business ended at that point. Gave it all back to him and said, I'm out, I'm walking away. It's yours. I'm going to go do my own thing.
Yeah.
And I vowed at that moment to figure it out, because I was like, okay, that model of the last 8, 9 years did not work. What am I doing wrong? So I read all the books, and it was probably not podcasts and YouTube videos yet, but like I've always just been an avid reader of business books. I like learning how things are supposed to work and how they work better than how I do them.
Yeah.
And so it was a combination of a few books and a few mentors that were like, okay, if I just give everything I have to that approach, what would happen? And it became a bit of an experiment of, okay, I'm giving myself 6 months, 8 months to figure this out. And if I don't, I'm going to go get a real job and I'm going to hate my life. But I tried, you know?
Yeah.
And thankfully, it was like November of 2017 when I left the business.
Mm-hmm.
And by January, I had a client that was paying me 6 figures a year. And it was
Wow.
like, okay, that worked.
Yeah.
Like it was
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
quickly that worked. And in the 2-3 months between leaving the business and getting that client, I had just actively every day did different things than I was doing before, because what I was doing was giving me a certain result. I needed different results. And so I needed different action,
Yeah.
took different action, and I got different results.
Looking back, because I feel like this really is only like a question that can be answered by looking to what did happen. Do you feel like you are able to recognize now when that pivot has to come? Because I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with, is like, when do I pivot, or when do I change things up, or when do I stay the course? Do you feel like looking back, it's a little bit easier for you to see now, like, okay, I could have done it a little earlier, or I could have, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100% makes sense. We each have our own like threshold, right? It's you look at temperature. My wife is eternally cold, and so if she could set the thermostat in our house to her liking, it would be 80 degrees in the
Yeah.
house. We would be heating our home during the summer.
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but I run hot, so
Yeah.
I'd like it to be 67 degrees in the house, and so there's compromise. But like, you think about your temperature, and you kind of have a range that's okay before you have to do something about it. For me, it's about 75 degrees. If it gets to 75 in the house, I have to change it, or else I start getting a headache or sweaty or lethargic. Like,
Yeah.
I physically respond to what's going on. But if I don't hit that threshold, it could be 74 or 73 degrees and it's fine. So I think we all have a threshold with our businesses, and we're going to say finances and the relationships and all those things that are involved, where we want a certain amount of the thing. Maybe it's freedom, maybe it's financial income, maybe it's relationships or location or any of those things. And we're okay within this range. But if it drops below or goes above, then we have to take action to get back to what feels like a comfortable temperature.
Yeah.
So what happened over those 8-9 years that I was, co-owner of this video production company, is I was within the range that I was comfortable with. It would have been great to make 6-7 figures a year as a business and be growing month over month and all those things. But the fact that we weren't didn't make me take any action until it's 2017, and I'm putting my own finances on the line to keep the business afloat, like going into debt to keep a business afloat that's not worth saving, and realizing that, I just hit a threshold. I just hit 75 degrees. I have to do something different. I have to make a change. And so I think for all of us, we have a threshold, whether we know it or not.
Yeah.
And ideally, you can be introspective, whether that's getting coaching or therapy or meditation or journaling or whatever it might be for you to unlock some of that, to go, what is my threshold? And where's my potential? And do I want to make a change? And the faster you can compress the timeline of reaching that threshold, the faster you can make a decision that will change the situation.
Yeah. I want to jump here a second so you just mentioned coaching, and earlier you mentioned that you had a couple of mentors along this pathway of yours. When did those mentors come into play for you, and how crucial was that to kind of the timeline that we're talking about?
Yeah. The mentors came earlier, in the sense of, I think of authors as mentors. If someone is going to invest the time to write what they know, their frameworks, their principles, their values into a book, that is mentorship at scale. And so I use that term loosely or generously, maybe.
Yeah.
But, if like, I spent so many hours listening to Derek Sivers, for example. I've got like 4 of his books back here. And, I emailed him, and he became someone that I could ask questions of. But he's an author and a speaker, and did podcasts, like big podcasts, like Tim Ferriss Show and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I like this guy. I like his approach. He's had success. he wrote in one of his books, the book is called Your Music and People. It's a
Mhm.
book about marketing, but it's, he grew up and kind of came up as a musician. But he
Gotcha.
has this great line in there where he says the shortest way to get anywhere is to call the destination and ask for directions. It's like, oh man, that's so good. And it
Yeah.
applies everywhere. So I've just kind of I've always done that. I remember reading, self-help books when I was 12, 13, 14 years old, like The Richest Man in Babylon and Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And
Mhm.
what's the real famous one? Think and Grow Rich. Like, I think I
Yeah.
read that at 14.
That's
So it's
wild.
always kind of been there.
Yeah.
So those are the mentors I spoke of, but the coaching came around 2020
Okay.
because 2017 to 2020 was like, oh, this is working. Like I said, my revenue was doubling and I was getting good projects and doing
Yeah.
stuff. And
Yeah.
there was still something that wasn't clicking.
Mhm.
I was like, okay, I'm going to call the destination, ask for directions. So in 2019, I went to the Tony Robbins Date with Destiny. It's like a
Yep. Yep.
6-day
Yep.
seminar, and life-changing, truly life-changing, worth 10 times what I paid to go there. Like,
Mm.
truly life-changing. And Tony was one of those mentors. I'd read his books and listened to his tapes and all, over the years. And so it became really natural to go, well, if I'm going to do coaching, I should figure out what Tony offers. And he has business results coaching. I got
Mhm.
paired up with a really amazing coach and worked with her for 5 years until she left to become a CEO of a nonprofit. So it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
okay, I think my time is done here. I feel like I've gotten what I needed out of coaching. And man, it was again transformational, like
Yeah.
having someone you could talk to and be accountable to week after week, month after month is a
Yeah.
huge help.
I love that. And this may be this is a great segue because now I want to jump back again. Is there a couple of things, and this might be one of them, is there a couple of things that you can point to of changes that you mentioned that you made around that 2017 to 2020 time period that really made a difference in how things went?
Yeah. 2017 was probably the most pivotal. There's a book that I read called So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal
Okay.
Newport. I don't know if you're familiar
Yep.
with this
I
one.
I actually have his slow productivity book right here.
Another
Yeah.
good one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cal's
Yeah.
Cal and I have the same INTJ, like Enneagram, whatever profile, the Myers-Briggs.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
the same brain. So when I read his book, I was like, oh, this is like, if I were writing, this is what it would
This is
sound
what it'd be.
like.
Yeah.
And so it resonated instantly.
Yeah.
And he has this concept in there called the craftsman mindset, which
Okay.
is all about like getting really good at something rather than focusing on whatever you're passionate about in the moment and letting that drive you. It's like, no,
Hmm.
get so good they can't ignore you.
Yeah.
I was like, that was honestly the book in 2017 that I reread because I read it in 2015, reread it when I left the business in 2017. And that was the mindset for the next 6 months.
Mm.
Become so good they can't ignore you
Yeah.
as a producer, as an independent film producer.
Mm-hmm.
And in it, the craftsman mindset, if you know anything about me, like I started 2 separate businesses called Craftsman something. Like the
Mm.
first one was called Craftsman Creative, which was my company in 2020 that
Okay.
I started. That was all about I was making online courses for creators and partnering
Okay.
with creators who had platforms and audiences to say, I'll do the video, you bring the audience, we'll make money. And
Got it.
it
Got it.
became a
Got it. Okay.
6-figure business pretty fast. My company now is called Craftsman Films,
Mm.
harkening back to that idea of the craftsman mindset. So that really was probably the one that was most pivotal in this journey over the last, 8-10 years of, okay, it starts with mindset, it starts with your approach, and then you need a framework. You
Yeah.
need a system that guarantees or makes the outcome more potentially viable,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it became a pursuit of collecting frameworks and going,
Mm.
who out there is writing frameworks for this or this or this? Who has a framework for marketing? Who has a framework for sales? Who has a framework for leadership?
Mm-hmm.
And then I would seek out those books, and those book people became mentors. So I'll quickly just rattle off a few because I think maybe I'm unique in the sense of I think of an author as a mentor and then I go
I
become friends with
I
them.
love that perspective though. I've never thought about that before.
So 2 quick examples. One is Joe Pulizzi wrote a book called Content Inc. So it's like, okay, I need
Mm-hmm.
a
Okay.
framework for
Yes.
how to do content.
Yep.
And then I joined Joe's community. And then I went to CEX, which was his conference that he started in 2022 or 21.
Gotcha.
And I met Joe and I said, Joe, I'm Darren. I'm in your community. He's like, yeah, I'm so glad you're here. At the end of that conference, he says, hey man, you're on a trajectory. I can feel it. If you ever have any ideas, shoot them my way and let me know. And a couple months later, I shot him an idea to do a podcast together called the 10K Creator, which is how do you get to 10,000 email subscribers and 10,000 a month in revenue. And he's like, I love this idea. I'm the guinea pig. He's the mentor. Every week we talk about the process and he recommends the next step. And in the process of 10 episodes, I reached that threshold. So it was pretty amazing. But like it went from a mentor author relationship to a co-host of a podcast relationship.
Yeah.
The other one, just because it's in front of me, like I'm holding my book, but the first name on here is Daniel Priestley, the blurb on the back. And Daniel Priestley has written a number of books. Key Person of Influence and Oversubscribed are the two I would recommend to your audience like right now.
Yeah.
And I read those books. And then a few years ago, I reached out to Daniel because it turned out we were connected on Twitter. We were following each other on Twitter. I didn't even know. But I messaged him. I said, Dan, I'm hosting this, this workshop for my audience. I'd love to have you come be a guest presenter if there's any way. I know it's kind of a Hail Mary, but let me know if you'd, be interested. This was like 2022, I think. He goes, I just released a new book. I'd love to come on. If you're going to have at least 100 people there, I can justify it and I would happily come on. Yeah. So he comes to my, my event over Zoom.
Okay.
And does this amazing presentation. Everybody loves it.
Yeah.
And now we have each other on WhatsApp and we text and message and I did his accelerator and he's now blurbed my book, and it's like, okay, you can do this, especially with business authors, nonfiction authors. I don't think they generally don't, unless you're talking about the Tim Ferrisses and the James Clears.
Right.
They don't have huge audiences. And so you can message them and find them on LinkedIn and send them a DM and become friends. And so those are now my friend mentors, not just author mentors.
Yeah. I had another thought, but I really want to sit on something for a second because the more that you're sort of articulating you and kind of how you've come along, it seems like you have a really great knack for community building in the aspect of like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, how did you get to that point where it's just like, I think a lot of people would, read the book and stop there and be like, all right, cool. That's a great book. I love the read. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Where did you ever get the idea that it could be more than that in terms of like reaching out to these people and then eventually sort of creating these communities around them?
Yeah. I mean, I've done therapy for this. And so we're going to get real here.
I'm so intrigued.
I mean, honestly, it goes back to the idea of, not being picked at times in my life. I went through a divorce in my early 20s. And when you go through a divorce and someone leaves you, what you're left with is a lack of certainty, a lack of significance. You're missing out on those really essential core needs, as Tony Robbins would call them. And so I point to that. I point to, I lost my mom to cancer in 2011. I was not that old. I was like 30, 31 years old. Yeah. And so you have things like that happen in your life, and all of a sudden it becomes very clear what's missing. And I think the community building stems from an innate, buried desire to be chosen, to be wanted, to be enough for people. And so I tend to be the one who is creating the community. I definitely have joined other people's communities. I talked about how I joined Joe's community and I did the accelerator with Dan. Like those are communities that existed that I joined in order to get something out of them. But yes, I mean, this morning I hosted a 2-hour live call for filmmakers that are in my Craftsman Films community. And I do one every month. And I think it's again, taking care of those that don't have the resources that they need yet and saying, well, I have something I can give. And if I do, then I should. Yeah. So what can I give? I can answer questions and I can connect people. So a big part of the monthly live calls I do is like, come on and, there's a dozen or two people that are in the community, paid members, but there are also come to the first one for free members that are there. And I'm saying, look, everybody that I've connected with on LinkedIn over the last month, come to this call. And then a lot of people do. And so I go, here, everybody, you're all cool. Talk to each other. So it's not just me presenting for 2 hours. It's like, I'll answer questions and talk about stuff in my book or like a part of the framework that I came up with. And then we'll do breakout sessions where they have 10, 15 minutes to meet 3-4 other people in a breakout room and then come back. And then we answer questions and then they do another breakout room. And by the end, they've gotten in some enlightenment, some principles, some motivation, and they met 5 or 10 new people.
Yeah.
And you never know where those are going to end up. And so the short answer to your question is, things that are broken in me that I'm still trying to fix through, trying to be healthier in my life. But I think what they ended up becoming was a way to align with this desire to take care of the poor and downtrodden, to take care of those that don't have what I have.
Yeah.
And to give and share and treat it with like that mindset of abundance rather than scarcity.
Yeah.
And give as much as I can.
Yeah. It's such a journey, and it's really quite incredible and really introspective to have the understanding that you do, and then how to sort of like put that into something that's useful to you is really, it's intriguing is the best word that I can use, but it's also really inspiring, because I think a lot of us have, those things that we maybe are dealing with. And one thing that I talk about when I teach dancers is like, sometimes the thing that we least like about ourselves, or the thing that we're least confident in, is the thing that ends up making us the most individual. And I think that, that little synergy there is interesting. Where did your book come into your life and timeline? Where was that something? Because obviously, we've talked at length. You love books. You read a lot of books. Was it always something that you were like, I'm going to write one for myself one day? Or how did that even come into your life?
Yeah. So 2013, another friend mentor of mine, Nathan Barry, who's the CEO of Kit, they're an email platform. But back in the day, before he created Kit, which was called ConvertKit back then, he was an author. He was writing books and designing stuff and making apps. And I remember in 2011, 2012, he had written some books and sold them on Gumroad and made like $350,000. I was like, holy freak, what just
like wait a second.
Some dude on the internet self-distributed a digital book, an ebook, and made hundreds of thousands. I'm doing something wrong here, is what I thought. So I became friends with Nathan, of course. This is going to be a recurring thing, and when he started ConvertKit, I was one of the earliest subscribers to that service, to that app. And to this day, I'm either the number 1 or number 2 longest continuous user of Kit.
It's amazing.
So, and I mean, he's been on my podcast and I've been on his, and we're friends.
Yeah.
So in 2013, he wrote a book called Authority. And the whole premise of that book is, if you write words on the internet, you gain authority, and then you can use that authority as leverage to build an audience or get revenue. And he was basically going back and documenting what he did to become a self-published author. And I was like, man, like I could do that. I read the book, and then I wrote a book in 2013 called The Indie Film Sound Guide. So it's a 125-page ebook. It's probably completely obsolete at this point, because I was referencing like Logic and Pro Tools from 12 years ago. So good luck. It's probably not helpful. But it wasn't meant to be a moneymaker. It was meant to prove that I could do it. And that really started a practice of writing all the time, not every day, but writing, at a professional level. Like I was like, oh, I could do this. I'm a good writer. I can write quickly. I've got this skill. I should lean into that. I wrote another book that's more of a religious book in 2017. And then in 2021, 22, I forget when, 2022, I wrote a book called Craftsman Creative, which was really just a compilation of like 30 blog posts that I wrote in a row with the intention of it becoming a book. but I wanted to test, like, if I enter this space as a key person of influence, as Dan Priestley says, I need a book. I needed something to point to and to say, this is what I do. And so I said, well, I'm going to write the book and publish it in real time. So as a blog every week and having a newsletter, I would just write a new chapter every week, a 1,500 word chapter, and I'd publish the first draft. And over the course of 6 months doing that, I took my audience from like 400 email subscribers to 2,500 and connected with people on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and stuff, and started building an audience. I was like, oh, this actually works. And, you know, sold the book, self-published the book, and it started selling a little bit. I think to date, I've sold like 200 copies. Like, it's not what the goal is, but that book generated $60,000 in revenue for my business in the first year, because I would give it away as a lead magnet. And I'd go to conferences like CEX, where I met Joe, and I was giving away the book at his event. I said, can I just bring a couple hundred copies and give them to everybody? He's like, yeah, absolutely. We'd love that. So a book as a business card is a great thing. And that's what that book was for. And then I wanted to create the book that I loved and benefited so much from, which are these books as frameworks. So slow productivity that you have there is a framework. It's here's 3 things that constitute what slow productivity looks like. Work at a natural pace, et cetera, et cetera. Like do fewer things. And what's the third one? Like, I forget.
I haven't gotten to the third one
yet. It's okay.
I can't think of it either.
But So Good They Can't Ignore You is a framework book. Key Person of Influence is a framework book. Content Inc. All these ones that I referenced were framework books. I'm like, those are really powerful, because that framework can be delivered multiple ways. You can deliver it as a LinkedIn post, as a book, as a workshop, as a retreat. I just did last month, I did a 3-day producers retreat at Sundance Mountain Resort here in Utah. And I had 12 producers from all over the country pay me money to come to Sundance and get my framework in retreat form over 3 days.
Interesting.
So, you know, that's $30,000 in sales from a book. It's like, the book sold 200 copies or whatever. That's not the point. The point is, I'm the guy that wrote the book. So we haven't got to this part yet in my journey, but like, I'm raising money for films. It's a lot easier to raise the money as the guy that wrote the book compared to someone that no one's ever heard of before.
And another great segue that you've put us into. It's almost like you do this, you know, it's almost like you know how to do this. So where are we now? I feel like we've gotten a really good hold on, you know, where we came from. Where are we now? What is kind of the thing that's driving you at the moment?
So a few years ago, in the middle of the 3rd movie that I produced, so The Carpenter, this one over here. We were filming in Cape Town, South Africa, which was amazing. I was out there for 8 weeks, like living in Cape Town. It was awesome. The only thing missing was my family. They were here in Utah while I was out there.
Very fair.
But I had this, you can tell that I'm a systems guy, that I can see the architecture before it's even put down on a blueprint, right? So I'm sitting here going, we're producing movies using a broken model in indie film. And I can't just sit and complain about it, because, you know, that's not who I am. So I started thinking about, well, what would it look like if I solved all the problems that I can see in the way that we produce indie films? And I even called, you know, the law firm that I use, and I said, hey, I'm thinking about doing something like a venture capital fund for film. Like, is that a good idea? And they're like, I don't know. It's like, thanks for your help. Here's $150 for the phone call. But that was the first inkling, was like, what if I would try to solve some of these problems? What would it look like? And then over the next year and a half, I kind of just kept tinkering with this model, and ultimately ended up with a VC fund for film. It's called Producer Fund One. It's a $10 million film to do 10 independent feature films. And it solves a lot of the problems that I saw quickly. I'll go through them, because maybe this isn't interesting for your audience, but the 5 areas where I saw problems: financing structure. We don't finance them properly. And so we're putting investors' money at risk. Development. We don't do that in indie film. You know, we get the money from the investor on Friday, and we're in pre-production on Monday. And we skip the whole phase of development where we make the movie better. We skip development. Production and post, we understand. Like that's the thing we are good at. So, there wasn't much to solve there other than making sure people are paid fairly, working 10-hour days instead of 16-hour days, et cetera, et cetera. But then the last part was the marketing and distribution. We need to start marketing day one, not day 364 of 365.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you get a lot of benefit. And then the last piece was distribution. We tend to use a hope strategy. We hope that our movie gets funded. We hope that it gets made. We hope it's good. We hope it gets into a festival. We hope someone there liked the movie. We hope that person happens to work at a studio or a distribution company. We hope they make us an offer. Actually, we hope that there's two people that make us an offer, so there's a bidding war. And then we hope that that offer is more than what we spent on the movie.
Super realistic.
Hope is a terrible strategy, but that is how we do it. That is the modus operandi in indie film. And so I said, no, we're going to get distribution up front. So I spent a year and a half solving all those problems with the structure and lining up partnerships with distribution companies, with production companies all over the world, with financiers. And now I'm actively putting this fund together. We just hit our first milestone where we can greenlight our first movie. That one's happening right now. So that's where I'm at. Like I'm kind of moving up a level. From in leadership, from being the boots on the ground producer that's responsible for every fire being put out on set, to the executive producer, to saying I'm now managing money and managing a little indie film studio, and I've got producers and directors and writers that are working in that ecosystem that I've built.
It's incredible. It's incredible. I want to get into a few actionables here as we kind of tailwind into the end of this episode. If I'm a creator of any sort, and I'm like, okay, I'm listening, I'm hearing, I think this is cool. I would like to make money. I would like to, be successful. Where do I even begin? I'm really good at something, and I kind of have a good hold on getting people to watch my stuff online, or I have a little bit of an audience. But how do I even possibly manage scaling that or even monetizing that?
Yeah. Oh, that's the killer question, right? That's what we all want to know. We put it at the end for the diehards that stick around for the whole episode.
Exactly.
So I'll put in one final plug for my book. Like that's what the book is for. Blockbuster is the subtitle is How Independent Creators Can Build Massively Profitable Businesses. And inside it talks about my movie framework. We've touched on a lot of the parts of this framework. Starts with mindset, and then you define your outcomes. You create visibility for the thing that you do. You implement systems, and then you expand your impact. That's movie as the framework. So I think we're going to touch on all of those parts to get a full answer. But since I've already kind of talked on mindset,
I feel like those last two are where it's like, that's where I know, even speaking for myself, I know that's where I fall short is systems, and then expanding reach is that's the thing.
And we all want the expansion. We all want the impact of having a big business and a big reach and being able to change the world with our art. Like that's what we all inherently want. But I put it at the end because you have to earn it. You have to go through the other parts to build a business that's the vehicle that gets you the expanded impact. So I want to actually start with visibility, the V part. Seth Godin, who's another author mentor who I've talked to before and is a cool guy. He talked about how you don't have a product problem. It's that no one knows you exist. So every single person listening to your podcast, I guarantee is a very talented individual. They have a skill set, they have a talent, they have a passion, they have artistic ability, they have a craft that they've honed and perfected for years and years or decades. So that's a given. Well, what makes the people stand out that are successful? Well, it's that more people know they exist than they have capacity to serve with their business. So if you're a choreographer, how many clients can you take in a year? 5, 10? I don't know. You tell me a number.
There's a limit. I mean, if you're I can speak to myself. That's part of what I'm running into with my business model right now is like there is a ceiling time wise. There's a ceiling time wise and resources wise, and you can only, I shouldn't say that. You can definitely, your prices can definitely increase over time, but there's a ceiling when you're talking about, a very specific in-person type of activity that you need set resources for.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know much about the dance world, but let's port it over to film world and use an actor as an example, right?
Yes. Yep.
What's the ceiling for an actor? It's north of $20 million for a single movie. You know, the Dwayne Johnsons and the Ryan Goslings and the Margot Robbies of the world are commanding 10, 12, $20 million.
Yep.
So, and that's beyond any ceiling that any of us on or listening to this podcast need. If we made $1 million a year, we'd be like, I'm set for life. You know?
Yeah, I'm quitting.
So,
I'm retiring.
So we don't need to reach the actual ceiling that exists. Okay. But what happened is at some point, those artists that I just referenced, those actors, broke out of the middle, the low end, the pricing dead zone of I will trade my time for dollars to saying I will trade my image, my presence, my acting ability to be in your movie because there's only one of me and I know you want me. And so there's dozens of you that want one of me, which makes my price go up, right?
Yeah.
That's the very basic goal of visibility to get what Daniel Priestley calls oversubscribed. And that is where you have more demand for your services than you have capacity or supply.
Yeah.
So if you are an actor and you can do 200 days on set, that might be somewhere between 200 and 2 projects, depending on how many days you're on set for that one project. So let's say it's 100 different clients that are going to hire you in a year. If you only have 5 people that know you exist and that can and want to hire you, you're going to be undersupplied instead of oversubscribed because there's less demand than you have capacity. And so that's where you get actors that are only working 1 or 2 days a month instead of 10 to 20 days a month.
Yeah.
So the goal, the number one thing for you as that actor or you in your chair or me here with visibility, the number one goal is to get oversubscribed. And ideally, it's like a 20-to-1 ratio. This is, again, I'm giving credit to Dan Priestley because it's, his framework of being oversubscribed. He wrote the book on it. He's the guy that wrote the book. Yeah. So if you have 20 directors that want to hire you as an actor, it's very likely that one of them would want to hire you right now. If you reached out to 20 directors that have all worked with you, that all desire working with you, and you said, hey, I am freed up. I just had a project bail on me. I have the next 2 weeks available. If you need me for anything, let me know. But I only there's only one of me. And so if 20 people know that, it's pretty likely that one of them will respond and say, yeah, I actually could use you on my project right now.
Yeah.
And so it's a function of that supply and demand balance. That's really the goal of visibility, to get more people to know you exist than you have capacity to serve. Once you're there, everything gets easy because you can raise your prices. You can limit the capacity and say, look at what Taylor Swift just did. She just released, she announced that she had a movie that was coming in theaters 2 weeks before it hit theaters. Yes. Most studios will start their marketing efforts a year before with a teaser, with a trailer, with an announcement. 2 weeks, social media. Hey, everybody, I made another movie. You can go see it in 2 weeks. It's only out for 1 weekend. That movie, because she has millions of people who have demand for the things she makes, and there was a limited capacity. There's only so many screens, so many theaters, so many showings, so many seats that it sold out. And so she made $30-something million in 3 days releasing that movie to her Instagram followers on social media because she's the queen of tons and tons and tons of demand, very limited supply. So that's what you're aiming for. You don't have to be a $1 billion tour generator, Taylor Swift, but you do need to figure out the proper balance for your business to say, okay, if I have capacity to do 10 projects a year, then I probably need somewhere between 50 and 200 people to want to hire me. And my goal every day of getting online is to generate more demand from more people so that the balance is struck.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I love this. The last thing that I always like to end with is something that somebody could do today. If, again, kind of tracking this conversation, they hear that, because even I hear that and I'm like, okay, yes, got it. Locked in. What's something that somebody can do today? And maybe it's not even super related to what we've been talking about. Maybe it's just something, another little nugget that you can think of. But what's something that somebody could make a change in their lifestyle, business, day to day today that you feel like would get them one step closer to where they want to be as an artist, and in this world of sort of a thriving art creative business?
Yeah. I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning in mindset. Tony Robbins says that success is 80% mindset, only 20% strategies and skills. So that was another one of those things, those principles that I stuck on the wall in 2017. I said, I got to maintain this abundance mindset. I got to have an empowering mindset. I got to show up every day with possibility and abundance, or else I'm just going to revert to what everybody else does and go, oh, the economy's terrible. The industry's bad. The market's down. Nobody's hiring, blah, 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 blah. All this BS that we fill our minds with. And then you get on social media and you see all these other people are succeeding because there's success porn on every single feed in your phone. And all of a sudden you're going, well, obviously I'm not good enough because everyone else has it figured out. So let me say this. The number one thing you can do is turn off those feeds. Like, do not give your time and attention, your precious time and attention, which are forms of capital, by the way. You can invest your time. You can invest your attention in things. And if you're giving an hour a day to an algorithmic feed, that's whole intent is not to give you value, but to hook you and keep you on the platform as long as possible. There you go. End rant. I'm off my soapbox. But like, that plays into mindset. If those things are making you feel bad about yourself, turn them off.
Yeah.
And that might be the number one thing you could do today, right now, to give yourself a break and say, I'm going to get off of algorithmic feeds for the next 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
I'm going to trade that time and invest it somewhere else in building an audience, getting more visibility, building some of the systems we didn't talk about, but you need systems for engaging, like getting awareness for your business. You need systems to engage those people, to turn them into prospects and leads and customers. And so if you don't have those like 4 core systems, you don't have a business. And that's why people struggle with, the story I always share is the gal that built like a 2 million person following on Instagram and then created like a clothing line and sold 12 shirts.
Yes.
Well, it turns out her audience wasn't a bunch of other young women that like bikini shirts. It was a bunch of dudes that just like her bikini pictures. So it's like she built awareness, but she didn't build the infrastructure with the systems underneath it to turn it into a real business. So you need those things, but honestly, mindset, because it plays into everything. You have to believe, first off, that it's possible for you to figure out. Now, it's easy for me to say that now. I'm a guy raising millions of dollars and producing $1 million movies, and they're in theaters, and I'm very successful, right?
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. That's, if you come away from this conversation going, well, he could do it, because you missed it. You missed the point. Because what I made sure you knew beforehand was the 9 years that I spent making $35,000, which was not enough money. And then I made the dumb decision to go into debt to try to keep a dying business afloat and walked away with $15,000, even less than I would have had I just left earlier. So no, like, you can't compare where I am now 10 years later, 8 years later, to where you might be where I was in 2017. And the thing that changed was my mindset. I reached that threshold and I said, no more. It's too hot in here. I'm going to change the temperature. I'm going to take different action. I'm going to apply different principles and frameworks and figure it out. And I don't want to turn this into a sales pitch, but I think hopefully I've earned a little bit of goodwill from the audience to say all the things that I figured out over the last 8 years, I put into my book, and you can get a free copy. I'm not going to charge you for the information that's there. If you want a physical copy, it's a couple bucks because it costs money to print and ship books. But I'm just going to say it now. You'll probably ask people like, where can you find me? But like craftsmanfilms.co/blockbuster, free copy of the book, put in your email. I send you an email and you get a free online copy you can read, because I don't want this to be gate kept. It's not about how can I extract money from the audience of listeners that you've built. It's like, no, that's gross for me to come and say, the only way you can do this is if you pay me $10. No, F that. So what you're going to do, man, you got me like riled up for some reason. Right?
I love
like
it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
But like the info is free. Like
yeah.
Information wants to be free. You can go to my site. You can read it there. You can read it in book form, whatever.
Yeah.
You can listen to me on podcasts. Everything information wise is free because that's how it should be.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. I didn't even have to do my outro of like, where can people find you? You did it for me. No, I mean, thank you so much for your time and for this episode. I think these are the episodes that I love all of the episodes that I do, but I think similar to you, I love where there's really tangible, solid advice for artists, because you're right. A lot of this stuff is gatekept. And that's why, I create the content that I do, is because I came up against the same things in the dance world. It's like, oh, we don't talk about that, or we don't talk about money, or we don't talk about this, or we don't talk about rates. And it's like, well, we should talk about these things, and we should spread information about these things. And so, yeah, this was such a great episode, and I appreciate your time so much. And yes, all of the links that Daren mentioned will be in the description, so be sure to check those out. And I would assume, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but people are welcome to reach out to you if they have any further questions or anything like that.
Please do. I'm very easy to reach through my website. If you sign up, go to craftsmanfilms.co/blockbuster, get the free book. You're on my email list. You can reply to any of the weekly emails.
Love it.
And I'm the only one. There's no like assistant monitoring the emails for me. The only social platform I'm active on right now is LinkedIn. And
Amazing.
if you're not on LinkedIn, you're missing out on a pretty amazing world of, being able to connect with business people. And part of your mindset shift might be, I'm going to get on LinkedIn. I'm going to do some business stuff for my business. So find me there. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm there every day posting stuff. And that's the best place to meet me in a social context.
I love it. Thank you so much, Daren. I really, really appreciate it. And thanks for the episode.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much for having me and for the conversation.